This would also qualify for people who manage a function of a company as opposed to other people. So if it's some individual who's just responsible for some function, you can qualify them also under L1A. L1A is nice because it will give them a speedy ticket to the green card in most cases. And they like that. And plus they get respect. When I come into the consulate with my L1A application, you know, you feel like someone's patting you on the back or something. You know, it's a nice thing. L1B, also a good visa. Nothing to be laughed at. You know, we're not teasing people with L1Bs here. But they are what? They are people who are specialized knowledge or specialized workers. They have information about your company or product provided or some technology or maybe even a client installation or something that's happening within the company that information could not be obtained by somebody outside your company within maybe a year. So that 1 year that they have training in your company, 1 year plus, has qualified them with specialized knowledge that now they should be allowed to come work in the U.S. Doing some other related work that is specialized, requires that specialized knowledge. Okay, so those are the two types, A and B. Now the B isn't quite as nice because again it doesn't give the individual that fast track to the green card. But it is, and sometimes it's a more subjective kind of visa where what's specialized knowledge to you may not be specialized knowledge to the U.S. CIS, so it could be a little tricky. Now right now we're not talking about blanket L1Bs. We're talking about general individual petitions we're going to do, and then we'll talk about blanket cases in a little bit. What's a blanket? Is that some warm thing you kind of pull over yourself when you go to bed at night? By the way. I love it. Do you know what I'm talking about? No, it's not that one, right? L1 blanket is something that immigration uses to qualify your company in advance, saying, we understand that your company has these offices all over the world. And so instead of having to prove that every time you file an L1 visa, B or A, they just automatically give you a blanket approval of that aspect of the application. Again, one aspect is the employee has worked for 1 year plus. The other is they are managers, executives, or specialized knowledge workers. The other is that the company have the correct relationship. So Indian office is correctly related to the U.S. office where the person will go. So there has to be an affiliation or relationship between the companies. So these things have to be proved each and every time you do an L1 petition. The blanket says this part about whether the company is related to this office or that office, that's done. Big companies get special privileges that way. And you have to apply for that in advance of your ability to file a blanket petition application.
I have a question on the L1 blanket.
Yes.
Eligibility of person to be working in a company. I understand that if the blanket petition is approved before June 2005, you are allowed to have an employee send out a blanket if he's on the road for 6 months. Is that right?
No, I think that is changed. That's my understanding is they must wait even for 1 year. That there was talk of giving them the privilege of coming only within 6 months. It used to be the blanket was so great before a couple of years ago.
6 June 2005, exactly.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
6 June 2005, I think, according to him. The government changed the requirements for L1, which said that instead of 1 year for blanket petition, you could have an employee who was only there for 6 months prior to 2005. My understanding is now, doesn't matter when your blanket was approved. I have clients' blankets was approved in the 80s and before. 1 year. That's my understanding. So, anyone here have one that was approved before that day? Do you have to wait 6 months or 1 year?
1 year.
Yeah, I think it's 1 year. Check and see. Maybe they're being nice to you at the consulate. Maybe you have some special
So we need
friends.
to try. We need to
Yeah.
try. So we
Just try, see what happens. You never know.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
It's there on the website, so people are
That
asking
what-
about it.
Yeah, that was the rule, but I think it's now 1 year. I did some research because I have the clients that some of them were approved from long before, and I think it's still 1 year. Who is the dependent of an L1? That would be an L2. Does this have an advantage over H1B in any way?
Yeah.
What?
Well,
They can work it.
Who can work?
L2.
The kids? Can that kid go work at Pizza Hut? Oh, only spouse. Kids have to wait. They have to get their own work permit some other way.
But do they have to get an EAD?
That has changed recently too. Social Security. This is interesting because Social Security, which is the agency in the U.S. that gives you a number that you can use to work, okay? They have requirements that you show them certain documents to get your number that you can work with. It used to say that you needed an actual EAD card from this L2 process. You apply for EAD card, you get it, you show it to Social Security, and now you get a number you can work with. Now the Social Security doesn't have any regulation. It says, you show us you have L2, that's fine. You can get your number. But immigration hasn't made that same rule yet. They haven't said that you can work with only your L2. You must still apply for EAD. I think you should still apply for the EAD. Safety. High-level questions and information coming from that guy. Okay, it's a good one. Another. Note. We gotta make a note there. Sharp. You're all special, by the way. The expedited permanent residence, we talked about that, okay? The L1A manager or executive gets to skip a certain part of the green card process. What part? The labor certification application. The one we talked about, PERM, or whatever that, you want to call it, where you show the government, I tried to find U.S. workers, we couldn't really find any. Here's all the proof. Okay? You could skip that because here the government says, this guy is obviously super high level. We're not going to make him recruit for that position, CEO, whatever. It's just not going to happen. So they give him a speedy process. And remember we talked about preference categories, the EB 1, 2, and 3? These guys come under EB what? Numero uno. A, numero uno, right? These guys are alpha, number one. It's a nice thing. So there's not usually a backlog for any of these people to apply for their green card. And they go directly to the I-140 and adjustment of status. I mean, this is quick and speedy green card stuff. It's super nice. So if there's any way you can qualify your worker as a manager executive, and they'll help you do that. They're going to help you know, look, I'm special. I'm not just specialized, I'm special. You put me up in L1A. Okay? Usually they know this. First preference. Okay. Requirements. Little process here. This application, like the H-1B, if you don't have a blanket, now wait a minute, what if you do have a blanket? Are there cases where you need to file an individual application? Help me out here, people. One of you had an expectation question you gave to Raj Kumar, and it was something like this. We filed 2 seemingly identical L blanket applications at the consulate. One was rejected and said we had to file
As an individual.
as an individual, and the other was not. What happened? Now, I don't have those in front of me to tell you, but there are instances where there are differences between a blanket petition and the individual petition. One of the key differences is whether the individual has a bachelor's degree, a real 4-year degree or equivalent. Okay? Not an evaluation that says their experience is equivalent to a degree, but a real 4-year bachelor degree. If they don't have one, then the blanket says you've got to go do individual. Mostly for specialized people. So if you have your 3-year bachelor degree done, and I suspect this is what happened to the person that was telling me about their case. If you have your 3-year bachelor done, and you said, oh, but he had 3 years of experience, here's the educational evaluation, now I'm taking my blanket petition to the embassy and we're going to do a little, blanket visa processing. They said, go away. Why? Because it's not a true bachelor's degree in a blanket case. That will send you back, you have to go back and do this regular individual processing. Okay, so that hopefully maybe is the place where that happens.
Who asked this question?
Does that maybe seem why possibly? Is that an explanation, or have a look? I think that may be why.
Excuse me.
Yeah.